meeting on time. Perfect. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
All right. I will call to order the meeting of the Licenses and Ordinance Committee. Today is November 14th. It is 5:32 p.m. I see no citizens present. So we will move on to approval of the minutes. Any changes to the minutes as they appear in the packet?
I'm looking at the online packet. I'm not seeing the minutes.
I didn't see them in there either. I did not look at the one, to be honest, I didn't look at the one that came in the email.
Yeah, neither did I.
Tyler, do you know if the ones that are posted online are the same as the ones that were attached to the email?
I'm checking right now, but I am 90% certain that they are the same.
Okay. Well, seeing that the minutes from last meeting are not there, we will hold off on approving and we will leave that till the next meeting. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Moving on to licenses and permits. The first we have is an application for a temporary Class B retailer's license by Gilda's Club, 7907 UW Health Court, Middleton, Wisconsin, 53562. Anything to note regarding this application?
Yeah, this was kind of an odd one because it didn't fall under special event permits, but they had come to us, so we just told them perhaps best to err on the side of caution as far as requesting the temp fee, but kind of a fundraiser event that they're looking to do over there. And we don't really have any issues or concerns with it.
Okay, and this is not like their normal picnic one outside. This is an interior. They're just looking for a different event than they normally are. Correct. Before us for.
Yep, interior inside, and it's not so large.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I will make a motion then to approve the temporary Class B license for Gilda's Club.
This is Cole. I will second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Moving on to number 2, review of an application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Denmar Enterprises doing business as the Village Green, 7508 Hubbard Avenue, to appoint Andrew J. Shuck of Middleton, Wisconsin as agent. We've seen these type of things before. This one did not stand out in any way, assuming public safety is okay with the background check and all that.
Yep, everything came back just fine. We identified 0 issues with it.
Great.
And this is just swapping someone out. Is that correct?
Okay. Correct. Yep, just the change of it.
To new general manager. Got it.
Yep. All right. Well, I will make a motion then that we approve the application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Denmar Enterprises doing business as the Village Green to appoint Andrew J. Shuck of Middleton as agent.
This is Cole. I will second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Review of an application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Johnny's Italian Steakhouse, doing business as Johnny's Italian Steakhouse, 8390 Market Street, to appoint Alicia D.K. Blancher of McFarland, Wisconsin, as the agent. Again, same story as before. Any concerns from public safety on this one?
Nope. We did the background check and nothing was identified. They also attached their basketball home opener schedule, which has not passed. So it's all good on our
Chair Wilkes, I have one question about this one. So with regard to the agent questions about have you been a continuous resident for 90 days? The response there was no, but then seeing like the date ranges for the I think we've seen this issue before where someone doesn't maybe quite understand that question. So I just want to make sure that was okay on as part of review, or obviously it was okay with regard to the background check.
see. Oh,
It's on page 19 of the packet, if that helps.
yeah,
Big-
that one. No. Prior to the. Yeah, I think we probably do need to follow up on that. I mean, I think. It's not a great question, because, I mean, I think they can sort of be appointed and form, I mean, they can't officially be agent until we approve it. And I think if they have been a resident for at least 90 continuous days prior to our approval, as agent, that probably still works out, but I think we need to know.
It
How
also is
long?
a little, she has her address history that she's been in McFarland since 2017.
Correct.
So I
So
think that's what the concern was, is that there
Oh,
must
here,
be
I see.
some, there must, because you're right, Jen, this is the second time we've seen this happen, at least that I can remember in the recent history. Where somebody has answered that question and then listed
Has lived
address history that goes contradictory to how they answered that question. So I don't know if there's some confusion about that question or what it is. And I don't know how to word it to make it any clearer.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
So-
see, it doesn't look like it's likely that she lived outside from, of the, because it's through September of 2023, so,
right.
Yeah, which is when this application was made, I think,
yeah.
or when she was appointed perhaps, or actually, anyway. Yeah.
You know, I'm inclined to, like, because of the date range of the home address and the employers, right? Like, there's no reason to think that that shouldn't have been a yes answer and that it was an inadvertent response.
Mhm.
But maybe something for the form, you know.
Maybe we'll just track this and see if it starts to happen more often, because I do remember it happening recently. So if we have a note of this happening again in the near future, then maybe we need to like highlight that question.
Just looking what we have here, it does look like there was an address change that the applicant went around that time, so I'm thinking that's how they're interpreting it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing continuous residence.
Yeah, but she doesn't have her new address listed either, which is a little weird, but yeah. But all those in favor of approving the application to amend the agent. Oh, did I move approval? I can't remember. I will do it again. I move approval of the application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Johnny's Italian Steakhouse to
And I
appoint,
will,
oh, go ahead.
nope, keep
To
going.
appoint Felicia Blanchard of McFarland as agent.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor?
I,
All right, application for a special event permit. These are two different events. Okay. Application for a special event permit by the City of Middleton Parks and Recreation Department, Laura Gessling, contact person for the 2023 Candy Cane Hunt to be held on December 8th at Lakeview Park.
Yep, so I was working with them on this. This is just their annual event. In past years, or at least I know last year, did coincide with the EMS Santa Parade, and that is not the plan this year. And they do also have an amplified sound permit. They didn't realize that they also needed the special event, so the amplified sound permit has already been approved and issued. So this is just a standalone special event permit at this point.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right,
I will move approval of the request for a special event permit for the Parks and Rec Department for their annual candy cane hunt on December 8th.
excellent. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Application for a special event permit by the City of Middleton, Melissa Brum, contact person for the Light the Green event on November 25th, 2023 at Stonehorse Green.
I work with them on this one too. Again, just annual event. It's fairly short and sweet, and I know they're planning to have Santa arrive be a fire truck around 5. The lights will be lit around 5:30 with a countdown. And then carolers will be singing kind of around the green, and then there's a sing along at 6:30. They do need an amplified sound permit, but this is on a Saturday and it will fall under their annual amplified sound. So
Excellent. That was my question. Thank you for answering that. Jen, do you have any other questions?
No, sounds
All right.
fun.
All right, then I move approval for the special event permit for the city of Middleton for the Light the Green event.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
I
All right, moving on. Ordinance is ordinance to revise section 2.042C regarding city administrator fund transfer authority.
Yeah, this came at Bill Burns' request. And actually, for now, I'm going to ask that the committee not take action on this. You see, it was a request for amendment of an existing ordinance, but so I made it in an effort to be cooperative and timely, but it occurs to me now that I look at it, I'm a little concerned about its breadth and whether that runs contrary to what might be required for budget amendments. So I'd like to have the opportunity to go back and talk to Bill about that a little bit further and see if he's thinking about something differently than I am, and whether maybe there might need to be some more limiting language in this. I don't think this is a huge rush, since we are still just adopting a budget. I hope we're already not needing to make large transfers right away in January. So
well, does it apply? I mean, is it only going forward? Because could it be to transferring funds between items on the current 2023 budget to cover things that
in theory, and I don't know if that's what is planned. I think this was just part of, I was not given any indication that this was to address any critical transfers that he was planning right now. I think this was just part of, when him and Brian were looking at, overall at the various budget things to change, this was just another, another thing that was on the list. And
well, and I'm interested too in the fact that this came straight to L&O, and that the other one that we recently approved that was a budget amendment to an ordinance, or an amendment to a budget ordinance, I guess, was discussed a little bit at finance before it came to L&O, and this one has come straight to L&O. And I understand, but I don't know if that's any reason for the rush. Like,
no, actually, the email that came to me for that other budget, this was kind of at the end of his email. It came to me as the package, and I just apparently got tired of reading the email. Didn't read it all the way to the bottom. I got to the other
guilty of that
and left this out. So, but
I'd
like
be
I said,
curious as to why this might be needed, or why that amount is, why that amount is recommended. To go up from 1,000 to 10 is a pretty.
I mean, it's not insignificant. I think probably, some more justification and discussion about that probably would be better as well.
Well, I think
I'm more concerned with just the fundamental. I mean, I think it's fairly well accepted that, transferring funds out of a contingent fund or something doesn't require a budget amendment. And I don't think this is something that would be done typically just willy-nilly, but if a particular transfer is actually considered a budget amendment, that actually has to be adopted by 2/3 of it, not just council approval, but 2/3 council approval. And so I'm a little concerned just about the breadth of this language, and
the complete authority.
So it's a fairly hefty
complete authority, including limited ability. Like, let's hedge our bets.
Well, complete authority for budget implementation. Yeah, but that complete authority only includes the limited ability, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure how the ability is in fact limited, because it just says you can transfer funds between items up to that much. I guess that's the limit, but.
Well, and I'll give you an example that comes to mind. When I read this is what I was thinking. So we just recently approved the bathroom renovations for the library. And that came in $30,000 over what we had allotted or what funds were provided. So there was plans to be made in the future to pull from a project that had left over and put it towards that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking would fit into this scenario. But like you're saying, that still has to come to the council for 2/3 approval. So my question is that something that's implied to be under this, where that could just happen? I mean, like,
Right.
That's what I would want to know about how this gets implemented.
Right,
And
right.
yeah.
I agree. And like I said, it just, it kind of came here quickly because I realized that I'd missed it, and then so I hurriedly threw it together, and it's an existing ordinance, so sometimes you don't give an existing ordinance as much scrutiny until tonight, as I'm preparing for this and reading this, it kind of occurred to me, well, wait a minute, this may not be entirely kosher, so I just ask for this to be tabled till the next meeting or whatever, I bring it back.
Well, do you think more than just tabling, also should it originate with finance, as Chair Wokus was saying?
Well, it's gonna go to finance. So I
mean,
But
you're
entirely up to you, but
if you want some more if you need clarification, I mean, Bill can provide it to you through an email, or he can provide it to everyone at finance. And in any event, everyone's going to find out about it eventually. It's just a matter if it goes there first or comes here first.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I just don't think should be back before any committee until I've talked with Bill. We've got at least the legality of it, because there's no sense in any committee talking about this further until we know whether this in this form or some other form is even legally viable. So,
okay. All right, well, then I move that we defer action on the revision of section 2.042C of the city ordinances regarding city administrator fund transfer authority.
And I will second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Ordinance relating to compensation for mayor, alders, and municipal court judge.
yeah. So this is the ordinance that would accomplish that would accomplish what was outlined in the resolution that had previously been discussed. Obviously, I mean, I think the real question for debate here is whether these numbers are correct, maybe whether any increase at all. I think if any increase were to go forward, I think the way the dates were calculated, I think that all makes sense. So I think the real debate here is, should there be increases, and if so, are these the appropriate amounts? Otherwise, the structure of this is, I left the existing ones in there because they're rolling out, and then there's a uncodified provision in here that authorizes the city clerk that, once these trigger dates come, then she can just amend the code to take out the old ones, but they need to stay in there to authorize continuing to pay the existing salary. So that's, I think, the only sort of structural thing of nerdy interest here. Otherwise, I think you can concentrate on, whether there should be an increase, and if so, what the amounts should be.
So there was certainly discomfort at the council meeting about the alignment with like the consumer price index for the increases, and there may be more appetite for some increase, but maybe a lesser increase. And so in thinking about that conversation, and then also how regularly, the other point made sort of at council was also how often is this revisited, since we are seeing that we hasn't been touched since 2007, 2008. but not wanting to be in disalignment with staff. And so in thinking about both of those points in alignment with how staff are seeing increases and how staff salaries are assessed and computed, potentially, an alternative amount could be aligned with general wage adjustments of 2% or 1.7 or 1.5. So that would be a lower amount, but would have been in keeping with had we conducted increases when staff salaries are evaluated. So that, let's see. So like, for example, in thinking about the math on this, like a 2% annual increase would shift the amount for the mayor and the judge to, plus like the FICA requirements and retirement system. A 2% annual increase would change the $14,400 to $22,644. But I also have some calculations for a 1.7% annual increase and 1.5% annual increase. So like a 1.5% for the judge and mayor would put it at $20,932. But again, that's inclusive of FICA and retirement system. For alders at a 1.5, that would be $7,806. At a 2% increase, it'd be $8,403.
Sorry, can you give me those 1.5s again?
Sure. So, and do you want the numbers
For the mayor first.
with the FICA and, okay. So for the mayor and municipal judge, a 1.5% annual increase in keeping with like staff wage adjustments with FICA and WRS computed be $20,932.
And then alders, you said 7,600?
7,806. That's inclusive of
Okay.
FICA. Yep.
Well, I did some similar calculations, and those are roughly the numbers that I was at. I didn't use
Okay.
the one. Yeah. Actually, my paper's in the other room. I forgot to grab it on my way in. I'm really struggling with this because I understand the reasoning behind it. However, we were sitting at personnel the other day and learning about the struggles that the city is having with staying competitive with salaries, with hiring and keeping good people because of salaries, and trying to be as nimble as we can be in the budget that we have with the staff and the services we provide. And I have a really hard time approving this. Especially when we were only allowed, when the rates for growth this year were at 1.7 or the low rates of the levy limit that was implied, and not knowing what's coming going forward. I just have a really hard time getting behind this. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do appreciate looking for a more reasonable number. And I even I reached out to Lori to see, what the judge at that rate that we even said, because it was right around the same number. And again, my page is in the other room, but I think I worked out that just time on the bench, he'd be billing at like $80 an hour. Because he would be like the one person that would, that I feel like you can calculate his hours because he's there, but that's not including the prep time that he does outside of time on the bench. So my concern, you know, I guess the reason that I bring up the municipal judge is that's the one I can think about where we can actually sort of figure out an hourly rate, because there is sort of a clock in, clock out for him, just with his time on the bench. But again, that's not including the time he's doing prep. So I guess I don't know. I still have a difficult time with it.
So I understand the difficulty, certainly, Chair Wokus. I will push a little bit that alder folks and the mayor, there is a quantifiable amount of time served as well, right? Prep time is the hard part to calculate. Time studies would, need to be conducted and tracking, but time in committee meetings, those are all very clearly recorded about start and end times. And so much like time on the bench hearing cases, we all are also hearing matters before us and making decisions. Right, this meeting will be 45 minutes or an hour out of our day, and that's regularly occurring, and attendance is noted. So
but I think when you start trying to apply that across all 8 positions on the council, that makes it difficult, because not all committees are created equal, and the work behind some of them are definitely more taxing than others, and I just struggle with people. I just struggle with it. And I don't think, I don't think it's apples to apples in that situation. So, I just can't support this in the current climate that we have with our city staff. That's what it comes down to for me.
So, I think it is also, I'm again, I hear your discomfort and the climate, but I think it is also about recruitment and retention too, for, in a little bit of a different way, but to, I think to some of the points made during the council meeting about this is about the worth of the people wanting to step up and serve, and recognition of that service, to, be a little more current with, costs, the cost for childcare while folks are at meetings. And I certainly hear you about how to apply it across different ways that folks serve on different committees. Again, so that's where we have that trouble with what is the time study for each position. So without having some sort of scale for which committee you're serving on, and that could get very convoluted with like the dollar amounts. Yeah, I guess as a matter of process, because I do support this, and certainly would support even modifications too. But we only have 2 of us here tonight, so I guess like I would make a motion and it would not be seconded and would fail.
I could second it and we'd split the vote. So, and then basically it would just go right. So Matt, explain to us then.
Yeah.
Because it has to go, would it go back to council without the support of LNO?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's kind of so one half dozen of another, how you do it. Whether you actually have a vote or a motion to approve fails a second.
Yeah, because the whole reason that we have it before us tonight is because it failed at council the first time. So our job tonight was to try to come back and come up with some sort of second stab at it.
So it didn't fail. It was the motion was made to refer it to LNO. And that
okay, right, because the discussion was, yes, we never had a full vote. That was the vote to refer it. So
right. so that, I mean, and then the referral was to be able to, like, what is a dollar amount that is more like in keeping with,
Well, do you want to make a motion then to amend the ordinance? As it's written?
I guess I would look for input on like to what amount is more appetizing, right? Like 2%, 1.5.
I would say go at, my preference would be the lowest if we're gonna put something forward.
Okay. And that, and just to the other point that was part of the referral from council was to look at language that included how often these salaries are evaluated, and there was some, you know, without having an official vote, there was some agreement that it could be done alongside staff salary compensation studies. You know, my understanding from Brian, that's done every 5 years. And however, in looking at chapters 27 about personnel and the requirements of annual reviews and things like that, staff salary compensations aren't even mentioned. And so how would we effectively have this reviewed with something that's not listed as a prescriptive requirement of personnel, like of HR matters? So,
And was it his comment about every 5 years? Is that when the grades are renewed or reviewed? When like the grading for each position
yeah,
is?
yeah, that's the compensation study, the overall
Yeah,
study, and not just
okay.
the wage adjustments. Yeah.
I'd be okay with the 5 year. And that seems to fit in. I'm trying to think. That might work cycle wise, just with the offsetting the years of elections, right?
Right, because that was
Matt,
another
looks
thing
like you got a there.
that was another issue brought up at council, was not wanting to be prescriptive about future budgets, but the way that the state law is written about this is that we can't decide for ourselves, so we have to decide for the future state.
Mhm.
And that's why there is the sort of impetus to get this done, because it has to be done before, if it's going to happen this year, it has to be done before December 1st because of the filing requirements. So it can't be anyone who's filing to be reelected couldn't be voting on this. So I guess unless there's more discussion, Chair Wokus, I could make that motion to amend. And
Matt, is there anything in the statute about review?
No, I mean, the only reason to put anything in the ordinance saying how often you're gonna review is just, hopefully it's written down as sort of a reminder, but at the end of the day, if you don't do it,
Yeah,
if there's no appetite for it, there's no appetite for it. So you know, I'm kind of agnostic about whether there's any real value in. I mean, if we're gonna say something, you know, I'd put just at the end, after it says, paid in monthly installments, and then the end of each month, just something to the, like, the foregoing compensation shall be reviewed.
or would it make more sense to have it put
Yeah.
next to the increase start, like before the amounts? Or
Well, and, I don't know, I don't see any real clean place to stick that, but I mean, like I said, I'm not all that excited about that being. Because when it, you know, it almost seems like we'd have to decide to what time of the year do we want to review it, and, you know, at the end of the day, if the council isn't interested, the council isn't interested in reviewing it. But
well,
I suppose you could put something in there to direct the city administrator to provide some kind of information. So
Yeah.
that each year are as, but what, you know, what information do you want to see? Just what the salary, the compensation would look like if increased by CPI or in accordance with.
Or is it just to state that that council shall review the compensation levels when staff salary compensations are studied?
Well, do we always, I mean, do we always do staff
And that was my
compensation
point of
reviews
chapter
all at
27.
one time? I mean, I you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure we sort of regularly do it, but it's, you know, sometimes we find out, oh, this particular skill set, hey, we found out that so-and-so is getting paid over here, or, oh, we just lost this person. Or, you know.
Right, and that's where chapter 27 isn't prescriptive about staff compensation studies.
Right.
And they're not mentioned. So they aren't even a requirement of the HR director.
Right.
Or like personnel, so.
There's a project for personnel.
To get
Look at
those on
our
a schedule and,
vacancies.
yeah. So I will, because we need to have something happen, I will move to amend the ordinance, the draft ordinance here with the amounts. Move to amend the mayor and the municipal judge based on a 1.5% annual sort of general wage adjustment since the effective date of those to $20,932, and then amend the alderperson annual salary amount based on a 1.5% annual wage adjustment to $7,806. Both of those are inclusive of FICA, and the mayor and judge would be inclusive of FICA and a retirement system.
Is that how the current salaries are?
Or is FICA and WRS computed after this amount?
That's a good question. I think typically, you know, when you're given your salary and those amounts are computed and withheld from the total.
Mhm.
So I think I understand your intent. I think those amounts are probably right. That would include all that, but then that gets withheld from these
Mhm.
the withholdings from the salary. So I don't think we need to say inclusive of.
Okay.
I think we just put in the amounts.
The total, yep, okay.
You guys might need to clarify that in your cover. Because I think that's where it gets confusing in the resolution. Right, where does it make mention of that? Because I remember reading it somewhere.
Well, it talks about CPI, so then we would need to modify it to be about the 1.5% wage adjustment.
Yes.
Yep.
But there was.
Well, I mean, for purposes of this motion, I think you can just say that you're moving to recommend approval of this ordinance with
The amended amount.
the mayor municipal judge salary is being changed to $20,932. The alderperson salary changed to $7,806. That's the motion. Then I think all the rest is just you know, it comes before finance and council. You know, usually it's somebody from L&O that talks about it, and you explain that's, you know, what the reasoning, where those numbers come from, and.
Right, I don't even know that the resolution then is needed at that point because it's.
So
You're right, yep.
Yeah, yeah, I think the resolution was helpful for discussion purposes because it did recite a lot of things, but it really had otherwise no real legal
Correct.
force. I think we can probably substitute that.
That makes sense.
You
All
need me
right,
to
so you made the motion to amend to 2932 and 7806.
correct.
I will second your motion to pass those recommendations on. It's not an endorsement of the change, it is moving it out of the committee.
Well, you seconded it, but are you then voting for the motion as well? Well, it really makes
I
it.
mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it's this, so it's coming out of the committee with those changes, correct?
Well, that's just what I was gonna say. If that's the motion and it does not pass, I think.
It doesn't move out of committee.
Right, but then it
Well,
comes,
doesn't move,
it goes,
but yeah,
it
but
can
we
make
go
the
back.
change can be, the motion can be made at council to make the change.
Right, I would probably inclined to say that the draft in what was referred to this committee from council, which this is the substance of what was referred to the committee for consideration and change, that no change has been made to those amounts, and this would go back. Now, of course, you move in finance and whatnot to have other at least one more committee gets a kick at the cat at this before it would go back to council. But the question is this coming back to finance and council with any affirmative recommendation from L&O?
All right, well, the motion has been made to make the amendments. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Aye.
Great.
So yeah,
So,
the report that would be just the motion. This motion was made, seconded, failed, and this will be referred back without recommendation from L&O.
this is the tough part about L&O because it's such a small committee, and if you're missing one person, it becomes tricky.
Yep.
All
I
right.
appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Yep. I appreciate your work on it, Jen. Moving on to ordinance to add the stop sign and no parking regulations relating to Red Tail Ridge Phase 1 development. This comes to us from Public Works. This is just some changes that need to be made in order that they can do some. Oh, wait, sorry. That was something else that we just reviewed for Red Tail Ridge. This is something different. This is just the stop signs.
Right.
So much going on with Red Tail Ridge and Public Works.
And this allows then that like room for the right turn and the straightforward motion at the stop sign. That's the way I understand that is correct. That's where the no parking at any time comes in. Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I have ever seen the exact rationale for this, but that's typically.
Yeah, and this is just on Bellefontaine. This isn't on High Road at all. So
Right.
Okay. From anyone not going in and out of the development at this point, they won't see any changes. Correct? Yeah. All right, well, I'll move approval of the ordinance to add the stop sign and no parking regulations relating to Red Tail Ridge Phase 1 development.
And I will second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to miscellaneous discussion on the consolidation of the Personnel and Finance Committees.
And I am sorry, Chair Wokus, I do need to leave, so.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say we can just defer this discussion. It's been on our plate before and it'll be on our plate again, so we'll just keep it as a leftover. We all love leftovers.
So good.
All right, well, with nothing else on the agenda, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Jen.
you.
All
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
right,
Good
thanks,
night.
everyone. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Matt.
You bet.